A very good evening to everyone. So here we are to do an analysis of UGC Net Political Science exam. Okay, that was conducted on 22nd November in two shifts. Okay, shift 1 and shift number 2. Okay, so the UGC NET exam, it is a national level examination conducted to award the lecturership to qualified students. Okay, so basically this time NTA merged two cycles, that is the cycle of December 2020 and June 2021. Okay, and it was conducted on 22nd November. Okay, so we will be doing a complete analysis of the question paper. Okay, everything from what kind of questions were asked this time during the exam. So just let us start with our analysis. So what are the points that we are going to cover up today is the difficulty level of the exam, okay, the good attempts that could be made, the topic wise questions, and a detailed review of the overall paper. Okay, so if I talk about the shift and date, it was conducted on 22nd November 2021 to after merging two cycles. So shift 1, the timings were 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Okay, and shift 2, the exam was conducted from 3 to 6 p.m. Okay, so keeping in mind there were certain COVID instructions that were given to the candidates. Okay, so paper 2, paper 1, that is common for all the aspirants at paper 2, the level of exam was very easy to moderate. Okay, so total of 3 hours were given in which the student can attempt any section anytime. So this was the flexibility that was provided. So now just let us see the UGC NET Political Science Analysis 2021 pattern of the examination. Let us discuss about the pattern of the examination. So paper 1 consists of how many questions? 50 questions, and the total marks allotted to were 100 marks. Okay, so it was a 3 hours with no break paper, right? If I talk about paper 2, the number of questions that were asked in paper number 2 were 100 and marks allotted to were at 200. Okay, so 3 hours paper, yes, definitely. So this was about the how the exam was divided in distribution of marks, if I talk about. Okay, so let us discuss about paper 1, right? So if I talk about paper number 1, so paper 1, yes, it was tough this time, right? So I can say it was tough to moderate, keeping in mind all the questions that were asked from various sections. So it was tough and moderate. For shift 1, I would say it was quite tough paper. And for shift 2, it was quite moderate in nature, okay, depending upon the questions and the good number of attempts for shift 1, I can say that easily you could attempt 35 plus questions in shift number 1. Okay, and coming to shift number 2, so here I can say that easily you could tackle 37 plus questions. So 37 plus questions, they can be considered as a decent attempt in shift 2. So see, this was the difference that I found then shift 1 and shift 2 paper 1. So questions were there. So questions from data interpretation, right? So questions from data interpretation, if I talk about, yes, they were quite easy in nature, not so tough, they were doable. Yes, a little bit tricky here and there, but overall it was a good attempt that you could have made the. Okay, so questions from data interpretation were there, calculation were required. So I can say that yes, they were not something that you cannot attempt it, right? So they were doable questions, and I would again say easy in nature. So if I talk about teaching and research aptitude questions, right, a very important section. So it was conceptual in nature, very conceptual in nature. So you could find certain questions that require a lot of concept understanding and making a good analysis, right? So they were quite conceptual and tough. So if I go to teaching and research aptitude questions, yes, they were quite tough in nature and they required a lot of analysis from your end to come to the correct option. So in paper 1, you could easily see that from teaching aptitude, okay, so the number of questions range from 11 to 13, okay, and the difficulty level was from moderate to difficult in nature. So moderate to difficult, we can say, right? And from research aptitude, around 7 to 9 questions were asked that were difficult, okay, they were quite difficult to attempt. From reading comprehension, there were 5 in one set, right? And yes, we can say the level was easy to moderate in nature. Not so tough, they could have been easily tackled. From communications, okay, so communications, there were around 3 to 5 questions and they were also moderate in nature, okay. Not so tough, not so easy. So communication at 3 to 5. Math section, if I talk about, so math section had around 4 to 5 questions. And yes, they were quite easy to moderate level. Not so tough level, only easy to moderate. So easily you can tackle them. From logical reasoning, if I talk about, right? So logical reasoning had around 7 to 8 questions and all of them were very easy in nature. So you didn't require a lot of hard work to do that. Easily they could have been tackled. From data interpretation, yes, the questions were around 5 in 1 set and they were easy to moderate level. Okay. So ICT, information and communication technology, you could find, yes, a good number of questions, 2 to 3 were there. And the level was not very easy. So moderate to difficult level, you can tell it. On people and environment, there were around 3 to 4 questions, and again they were moderate to difficult level. So I can say that yes, paper one was not easy. You will see that maximum of them were in moderate to difficult category only. Questions from higher education system were also asked. Okay, higher education system, you would find governance, polity and administration and current affairs. So around you will find this section around 3 to 4 questions and one moderate to difficult level. Talking about paper number 2, right? So we are covering paper number 2, political science. So political science was easy to moderate in shift 1. So you will find the level was easy to moderate and in moderate to difficult. Okay, so moderate to difficult, I would say in shift number 2. So almost you will find that 7 questions were very tough in shift 1. Okay, and the appropriate number of tough questions in shift 2, if I say that it would range between 5 to 6. So the nature of questions that were asked were very factual, then conceptual. I would say that more number of factual questions were asked this time. So almost 65 to 70 questions in political science were doable and easy in shift 1, I can say. And for when I talk about shift 2, so around 50 to 55 questions were doable in nature. So you will find that most of the questions were related to books and authors also. Let us talk about the difficulty level. If I talk about the topic of political theory, okay, so the difficulty level was quite moderate in nature, not very easy to handle. So political theory concept was quite moderate in nature. Political thought, yes. So there were questions from political thought also, direct questions could be seen in the paper. They were very easy to moderate in nature. Okay. Indian political thought this time was quite very easy. So it was very easy to tackle such kind of questions. If I talk about comparative political analysis, the questions were quite moderate in nature. Not so easy, I would say, but yes, 1 and 2 questions required a lot of efforts from your end. So quite moderate in nature. Yes, there were questions from international relations also. Okay, so they were moderate in nature, not so easy, not too difficult, but yet they required a certain kind of thinking from your end. The Indian foreign policy that was asked this time. Okay, you could find good questions from Indian foreign policy also. They were quite easy to tackle, not so difficult in nature. And if I talk about the questions from political institutions in India, right? So the questions from political institutions in India were quite easy. So if you remember a little bit about them, so you can easily handle this the questions from this particular topic. So the questions were asked from political processes in India, right? So political processes in India was quite covered very nicely, and the questions were, you can range it from easy to moderate level, not so difficult, but yes, they were attemptable questions. Public administration was quite moderate in nature. Okay, I would say not so easy, they were moderate in nature. You could find some confusion in one of the questions also in public administration. and a statement was given and who had said that particular statement. Okay, so yes, moderate level, not very easy to attempt. Talking about governance and public policy in India, it was quite moderate in nature, okay, and not so easy to be handled. So I would say if I do the analysis of the question paper, it was more factual in nature, right? And number of conceptual questions I would say was quite less this time, and match the following and chronology based questions made the paper more interesting. So you could find a good number of questions on chronology. So number of books. So books was also one section this time that was covered. Plus author based questions were asked in the paper, right? So yes, author based, book based questions were there. So paper one was tough, but paper two was easy to moderate in nature. Okay. So I would say that for political theory, the good number of attempts could be around 6, right? For political thought, the good attempts could be 7 plus. For Indian political thought, you can say yes, you can attempt around 7 plus questions. Comparative political analysis, 6 plus questions. If I come to IR, yes, they were good easy questions, so 5 plus questions you could attempt. On Indian foreign policy, if I say what was a good number of questions that you could attempt, since they were very easy, I would say 7. Political institutions in India, yes, you can say 5 number of questions were attemptable. Political processes in India, 7, right? So I would say 7. Public administration, again, I would say 7, and governance and public policy in India, I would say 6. Okay. So from political theory, the questions were asked on political liberty, thinker, Macpherson's possessive individualism, then fiduciary trust, the central idea of conservatism, feminism books, etc. Coming to political thought, so from political thought, the topics that were covered were John Locke, Mill's ideas, Hobbes' Code, books of Hannah Arendt, Franz Fanon, Hegel theory of state. Okay. From political thought, there were questions from John Locke, Mill's ideas, Hobbes' Code was there, books of Hannah Arendt, and Hegel's theory and etc. topic you could find easily. Indian political thought section, it covered books of Ambedkar, okay, and nationalism of Aurobindo, Upadhyay ideas. So they were all, these things were covered. So if I talk about comparative political analysis, right? So in comparative political analysis, you would find that there were on neo-colonialism, question was asked this time. So neo-colonialism was topic. Dependency theory was also one topic that was asked this time. World system theory. Okay, so who has given this theory? One question. On international relations, on UN Charter, peace settlements, you could find those questions. Indian foreign policy, right? India's doctrine, Indra doctrine was mentioned, and Indian diaspora, there was big agreement with USA. Okay, so good questions from Indian foreign policy. In political institutions in India, you could say that trade union, electoral politics was covered this time. On public administration, if I talk about specifically about public administration, so they covered human relation theory, decision making approach, and MP Folleto could also be found there. And in governance and public administration, you could find schemes such as Atmanirbhar Bharat. So yes, this was the analysis of UGC NET political science paper. We have covered the analysis of paper 2. Thank you so much.